Hello everyone, my name is Demismu and this is my assistant, the Foot, and today we'll talk about Xenophanes. Xenophanes is often not even regarded as a philosopher. The reason for this is that he didn't develop an overarching worldview like the previous philosophers, all things come from this or that. Instead, Xenophanes is most famous for his critique of mythology. He ridiculed and attacked the image of the gods that was present in Greece at the time. In the previous videos, we said that philosophy approaches nature in a different way from mythology. For example, water is not personified into a human-like god. Instead, it is regarded as water in the abstract. Now, with Xenophanes, we have a direct result of this. He criticizes mythology for its tendency to personify things. He thought that the gods of Greek mythology are just plain bad for several reasons. The first reason is that the gods of mythology are nothing else but copy-pasted human beings. For example, he said if horses or lions had hands and could paint, they would depict the gods' shapes and make their bodies of the same form they themselves have. In other words, if a horse could paint a god, to a horse, gods would look like horses. To lions, gods would look like lions. So basically the gods, as they are often depicted, Zeus, Poseidon and the others, are nothing but a copy of our own image. The second reason why he doesn't like the gods of mythology is that they are immoral. He says all the things that are attributed to the gods are actually our own worst qualities. There are many myths where we see the gods constantly fight, steal, murder, cheat on their partners and so on. In other words, the gods are a bad example for us to live our lives. Now, as we said, this seems like a development of what began with Thales. He implicitly rejected mythology with his abstractions. With Xenophanes, the confrontation with mythology becomes explicit. However, Xenophanes' criticism of the gods is actually a part of a much broader problem he sees. Xenophanes also criticizes philosophy, the pretension of philosophy to say things like all things come from this, all things are that, and so on. So he's not only attacking mythology, he's also attacking philosophy itself for its own pretentious statements. It's not just a case of a philosopher bashing mythology. Why does he do this? Because same as mythology, which thinks it knows how the gods look and act, philosophy also posits ridiculous claims about the world. In the last video, we said how Pythagoras believed in reincarnation, that a soul leaves one body after death and goes to another one. And Pythagoras also said that his soul carries the knowledge of 20 lives, implying of course that he was very wise. Xenophanes found all of this funny and ridiculed Pythagoras, not so much for his belief in reincarnation, but for his blind certainty that he can know these things. So the reason why Xenophanes doesn't have an overarching worldview like the previous philosophers is because he criticizes precisely those who claim that they can know something like that, where the world comes from or what all things are made of. As opposed to the dogmaticism of the previous thinkers, Xenophanes is the first to show some skepticism. His focus is not the world itself, but how we think about the world. He still proposed the principle of all things like the others, but his principle was bare bones. He only said, there is one God, he doesn't look like a human, and he doesn't think like a human being. The God is motionless and moves everything by his thoughts. But Xenophanes is much more careful about what he says. For example, he doesn't say, this is the truth, 100%. No, he says, this resembles to me the truth. So basically what he says is not, I'm gonna tell you what's the origin of all things and how the world came to be and the truth of all things. He says, wait a minute, how can we be really sure? What I say seems to make sense, but you never know. To conclude, Xenophanes criticized not only the gods of mythology, Zeus, Apollo, Poseidon, the fact that they are a personification, something Thales and the others also implicitly did. He also criticized his predecessors for being too sure of themselves about what the truth is. And this is the starting point of what will later be called epistemology, the science of knowledge. In other words, the question is now not only what is the world, where does it come from, what are all things made of, but also how do I think when I think about these questions and how can I know the answer at all. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time.